Welcome to my next van journal entry. Well, I just returned from an epic road trip to the southwest, 6,700 miles, 6 national parks, 2 van life gatherings, one at the beginning and one at the end of the trip. Started in Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, so many places visited. Had an awesome time. Started out the trip in Texas visiting some friends in New Braunfels, Texas, co-workers. I had visited them about a year ago. They had started building this house, and now the house is complete, and it is beautiful.
Oh. She's on display, she won't do it.
Smiley. Oh boy. You start to see her mom.
After that visit, I was a 1-hour drive to my first van meetup in historic Luckenbach, Texas, made famous by Willie Nelson and Waylon Jennings.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Yeah. Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Do it.
Yahoo.
Yeah.
Yahoo.
Yahoo!
After leaving Luckenbach, we headed down the road. It was so much fun having all of my fellow van lifers caravan together. We all visited Johnson City, Texas, hometown of Lyndon B. Johnson, the 36th President of the United States, where we visited his boyhood home, museum, and also got a tour.
The house was built in 1901 by a local sheriff and rancher, and by 1913 they had added on the west wing here. And so the house was like it is now when the family bought it.
There you go.
Oh, there you go. Now you got him.
You gotta wrestle it down now. Come on.
Yeah.
There you go, Justin.
See, you think having a baby now is tough. The next step is listening to him.
We had a great time at the Silver Dollar Winery there in the Texas Hill Country. About 20 vans lined up at this Harvest Host location before 3 of us moved on towards Carlsbad Caverns in New Mexico, the national park there, myself, Rob, and Sherry, and we had a great time together. We all spent the night on some free public land, BLM land, out there in New Mexico.
Chasing each other with sticks.
Built a nice campfire.
It's like, should have just got him some sticks. Right?
We were all laughing at Sherry because she wasn't crazy about the fact that our campsite was overtaken by cattle around 8 or 9 o'clock at night. Rob's dog, Willie, kept us entertained the entire night we were there. Beautiful sunset there near Carlsbad Caverns. We all said goodbye and went our separate ways. I headed south into the panhandle of Texas, Guadalupe Mountains National Park. We need to get up there. Awesome. What a beautiful hike. Somewhat challenging, but I've managed to get through. I think we're getting close to the end of the hike now. Then we just gotta turn around and go back. I think that I have reached the end of Devil's Hall, and I think this is Devil's Hall. Very, very cool. Well, I made it to Devil's Hall, and now I just need to make it back. So it was about a 2-mile hike here. Beautiful, strenuous. I would say the last half of the hike was mostly rock scrambling, trying to figure out the best way to get through the rocks. Can't hear a sound, can't hear a bird, can't hear a human. There's no breeze, there's absolutely zero sound. All right, let's go. I then made my way to the extreme western tip of Texas, which is El Paso. And while in El Paso, I visited the Border Patrol Museum, which was pretty cool to see some of the methods that people had used to try to get into the United States there at the Mexico-Texas border. The third national park that I visited was White Sands National Park in New Mexico. 275 square miles of white gypsum crystals with dunes as high as 60 feet tall. It used to be a national monument in 1941, but became a national park in 2019 under President Trump. Welcome to White Sands National Park, just outside of Las Cruces, New Mexico. I'm on a one of the many hiking trails here at the national park. I think this one's called the Alcali Flat Trail. It's a 5-mile loop, which I probably will not be doing 5 miles. But what a cool national park. White, beautiful white sand everywhere you can see. Mountains in the background. Certainly unlike anything I have ever seen in my life. So I'm looking forward to this. You can see the trail is well marked. Let's see if it has the name here again. The Alkali Flat Trail. What a unique hike here at White Sands National Park. Ooh, got a little hill to climb. Let's see if we can make it over this together. I'm gonna definitely work off my breakfast on this one. Up. Ooh. Now this is a workout. Oh my goodness. Ooh. Probably an easier way to do this. Yikes. I really enjoyed my visit to White Sands National Park. It was so unique compared to all the other parks that I visited, but it definitely resulted in some shoe dumping required at the end of that visit. Good Friday morning from the Oregon Mountains in southern New Mexico. Breakfast is ready. Coffee is hot. And it looks like we have a beautiful morning here in the mountains. Good Friday morning. It is March 22nd and it is 8 o'clock in the morning here in the Oregon mountains of New Mexico, and I'm getting ready to attempt this 4-mile loop trail called the Pine Tree Loop. It's an absolutely perfect morning. I think it's probably in the low 60s heading into the low 70s later today. We have a 4-mile loop here, and supposedly there's going to be some pretty stunning views, but I would say there already are some pretty stunning views. Really jaw-dropping to see some of these mountains with the morning sun shining on them. Absolutely gorgeous.
besa mi morenita. Arrepújele, compadre. Ay, 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 ay. Mírame, quiéreme, bésame, morenita, que me estoy muriendo por esa boquita, tan jugosa y fresca, tan coloradita como una manzana, dulce y madurita, que me está diciendo no muerdas tan recio, no seas goloso, y chupa que es más sabroso, y dale un abrazo a tu morenita, que me está pidiendo beso, que beso la condenada, que este mordisco no sube a nada.
I then spend the night in the chili capital of the world, Hatch, New Mexico, small little town, as I move north from Las Cruces. A lot of chilies to be found here, including my favorite beer on the trip, which was a green chili ale at the Icebox Brewery Harvest House location there in this quirky little town of Hatch, New Mexico. The next town that I stopped at was one of my favorites, and it's called Truth or Consequences, New Mexico. Yes, that is correct. The city changed its name from Hot Springs to Truth or Consequences as a result of a radio show contest in March of 1950, where the host announced that he would air the program on its 10th anniversary from the first town that renamed itself after the show, and at that point Hot Springs became Truth or Consequences. While I was in the town of Truth or Consequences, I saw a movie crew setting up for a movie that they're shooting there called Eddington, starring Joaquin Phoenix and several other high-profile actors. And it was interesting to see that they actually changed the names of many of the buildings to Eddington, because that's the name of the town in the movie that they're shooting for. So that was a lot of fun to watch that while I was in Truth or Consequences, New Mexico. Since Truth or Consequences is also very famous for its hot springs, I decided to go ahead and bathe in a hot spring bath while I was there for about 45 minutes and felt great afterwards. I continued driving north towards Albuquerque, New Mexico, but before I get there I stop at Sevilleta National Wildlife Refuge for a very enjoyable early morning hike.
How come the sky sometimes hides behind the clouds? Maybe it's just like me, a little bit scared of heights. Why does the rain always keep on pouring down when it's gray outside? It really makes me wonder. Yeah, it makes me wonder. It really makes me wonder.
Of course, as soon as I arrive in Albuquerque, the first stop is at Twister's, which is the restaurant that was the filming scene of Los Pollos Hermanos from the wonderful TV series Breaking Bad, where Gus and Walter meet up for the first time. And inside the restaurant they have a lot of things from the TV shows, a lot of references to the show, and it's a really fun stop if you're in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And then I visited the official Breaking Bad store and museum right there in Old Town Albuquerque, where they have a lot of souvenirs you can buy that are related to the Breaking Bad show, a lot of costumes that were worn during the show. You can find anything you want related to Breaking Bad if you visit Albuquerque, New Mexico. I met up with good friends and fellow travelers Neil and Britt, who recommended the Cactus Brewing Company, which is a Harvest host. Spent the night there. We had some good beer, some great pizza, and then in the evening we went to a Mexican restaurant called El Pinto, where I had the very best ribs that I've ever had that I can remember, and great margaritas as well. We went for a hike during the day at the Petroglyph Park, which has some of the best Native American petroglyphs that I saw on this trip, and I really enjoy seeing these petroglyphs. So much history, so many stories to be told here at Petroglyph Park near Albuquerque, New Mexico. I then make it to the northernmost point in New Mexico on my trip, and that is Bandelier National Monument. Bandelier is 50 square miles of monument that preserves the homes and territory of the ancestral Puebloan Native Americans. Most of these structures are as much as 900 years old.
Alright, I almost made it to the top. Let's go the rest of the way. I made it. But now I need to get down. Okay, here we go.
Just north of the Bandelier National Monument is the city of Los Alamos, New Mexico. Anyone who has seen the movie Oppenheimer knows that Los Alamos was the primary development location of the atomic bomb during World War II. I can't imagine a more historically significant location in the country. This statue of Robert Oppenheimer and General Leslie R. Groves stands right outside the visitor center at Los Alamos. Of course, Oppenheimer was chosen to lead the Los Alamos Laboratory, where he gathered the top scientists and engineers from all around the world to design and fabricate the world's first atomic bomb.
Picasso and Van Gogh in their New York apartments, chauffeur servants, all that kind of bona fide genius. Yeah, from a rich family. Yeah.
I walked past the home that was used by Robert Oppenheimer while he was in Los Alamos, as well as the home of Hans Bethe, and he was one of the major contributors to the development of the first atomic bomb. Happy Easter Sunday from northern New Mexico. Decided to drive up into the mountains this morning, and there's a little bit of snow left. Let's go check it out. As I'm driving down the Jemez Mountains after visiting Los Alamos, looking for a place to stay for the night, I find this little campground. First come, first served, $10 a night, parked right near a mountain, near a little brook. There happened to be campfire wood right next to my fire pit. It was a gorgeous night stay there at Vista Linda Campground in the Jemez Mountains of New Mexico. After a good night's sleep in the Jemez Mountains, I wake up the next morning. It's about 30 degrees, chance of snow. Today's my day to get from New Mexico into Arizona, and it turned out to be a snowy drive. But the van did fine, and I made it into Arizona. My first stop in Arizona was an amazing national park, Petrified Forest National Park. Here you can see trees that washed into an ancient river system millions of years ago. Volcanic ash would be absorbed into the wood, fossilizing it for millions of years, sometimes forming crystals of clear quartz or purple amethyst. So fascinating to be able to see, let alone touch, something that you know is 3 to 8 million years old. That's something you can do here at Petrified Forest National Park. Unlike any of the other national parks that I visited, every national park that I went to had something unique that you don't experience at any of the other parks.
Easy, take it easy. Don't let the sound of your own wheels drive you crazy. Lighten up when you still can. Don't even try to understand. Just find a place to make your stand. Take it easy. Well, I'm standing on the corner of Clearsville, Arizona. Such a fine sight to see. It's a girl on my load in a flatbed Ford, slowing down to take a look at me. Come on, baby, don't say maybe. I gotta know your sweet love is gonna save me. We may lose and we may win, but we will never be here again. So put up by climbing in, so take it easy.
Good morning from the Walmart parking lot in Winslow, Arizona, and hoping to take off here for a couple-hour drive this morning to the Grand Canyon. Have a little frost on the windshield that needs to be addressed before we take off, but here we go. Gonna hit a spot that's been on my bucket list for a long time. The Grand Canyon. No trip would be complete without making a visit to some small, rich in history tourist towns, and that's what I did for the next couple of days after visiting the Grand Canyon: Sedona, Cottonwood, and Jerome, Arizona. an amazing sight here. Let me turn the camera around so that you can see it. Check out these petroglyphs on the rock here. Beautiful ones right there, and then more just above. This town of Bumblebee, Arizona, supposedly got its name from in the 1860s when this was a stagecoach stop, and the travelers would say that this town is as thick as bumblebees with the indigenous people. So obviously it was highly populated by Native Americans. So here is the story about me hiking many, many miles on this one day at Lake Pleasant State Park. You can see the dotted lines, which I hiked most of them, looking for wild burros. I hiked many miles, never saw a burro, and the moment I leave the park in the van, I see a bunch of them on the side of the road. Just my luck here at Lake Pleasant State Park. Good morning. I'm at a county park, maybe a state park, just outside of Phoenix. And we're going to try to do at least one hike today, maybe more. It's a beautiful day. It feels like it's maybe mid-60s right now in the morning. First person at the trailhead here. And we're going to see if we can find some wild boar. No, I'm sorry. Wild burros. Donkeys. Asses. Supposed to be many of them in this park. So let's start our hike and see what we can find. So I think there are burros out here because there's some proof here and there. Seems like a wonderful place to hang out if I was a donkey. But so far no donkeys. Let's keep looking. You have got to be kidding me. Really? I walked 5 miles to see one of you today, and all I had to do was come here. What the heck? I arrived at the southwestern corner of my trip route, Yuma, Arizona, and did something that I've always wanted to do. Thought it would be cool. Let's watch the movie 310 to Yuma from Yuma, Arizona. And, well, I did it. Call me weird. So, yep, indeed, I am watching 310 to Yuma from Yuma, Arizona. While I was in Yuma, Arizona, I visited the Yuma Territorial Prison. It was open from 1876 to 1909. Had over 3,000 prisoners, including 29 women. In many cases, the prisoners would spend the rest of their lives there. They were also required to, in some cases, build their own prison cells that they would later spend their life in. One unusual experience while visiting the territorial prison was seeing inside the dark cell. The dark cell was a 15 by 15 foot cave built into the hillside that the worst prisoners would be sentenced to. There was no light. The cell contained a narrow iron bed but no bedding. Nourishment consisted of bread and water but once a day. And the cage had no toilet. And I have to say, it's been said that this is one of the more haunted places in America, and when I walked into this, for some reason the hairs on my arm did stand up straight. So definitely was a bit spooked by the dark cell at the Yuma Territorial Prison. Kind of weird when my own shadow freaks me out.
Barstool philosophy. You're my inspiration for higher education. Now the final test is right in front of me. I'm taking a bar exam under a neon sign. I'm gonna graduate when you're off my mind. In this honky-tonk school, they got a hell of a band.
I start making my way east towards my final destination of Bisbee, Arizona via Tucson, but of course I have to make a couple of cool stops along the way. While in Tucson, I visited the Pima Air and Space Museum. It's been open since 1976. About 400 historic aircrafts that you can look at there. 6 huge hangars that you can walk through. They have this monstrosity, which is an airplane used by NASA to carry rocket parts, and a couple of planes that were at one point used as Air Force One by Kennedy and President Johnson. Here's one of my favorite welcome signs I saw on my trip. Gila Bend welcomes you, home of 1,917 friendly people and 5 old crabs. Elevation 737 feet. This small town of Gila Bend received a piece from the World Trade Center from the 9/11 terrorist attack, and they have it in the middle of their town as a memorial to that day. I meet up with a couple of van friends in Tucson at a very cool 50s diner, Harvest Host, before we make our way together to the Weird Wild West in Bisbee, Arizona. We met up with some other van friends in Tombstone, Arizona before making our way to our final destination, Bisbee, Arizona, for the Weird Wild West van gathering. And it was weird and it was wild. And yes, Bisbee is definitely in the West.
You guys have what you want? Yeah. Woo! I guess the crowd has spoken. Get ready here. We will chop you. Say it loud. We will chop you. 3, 2, 1. Well, folks, for another successful Allison Bisbee 7 years going strong.
Indeed, things got a little bit crazy there in Bisbee, Arizona, but I had a wonderful time with my fellow van travelers. I want to thank you for joining me on this very long video. I apologize for the length, but I wanted to document all the wonderful places that I visited on this epic Southwest road trip. Get out there, enjoy every day, and I hope to see you on the next video.